My dad accused me of destroying his relationship. The public confrontation with his girlfriend left her leaving, him blaming me, and everything I thought was safe shattered. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to write about something this messy, but here I am, and I need to get it out. For months our house felt like a normal, slightly chaotic place. 3 people trying to juggle work, quick breakfasts, and the usual jokes about who burned the coffee. My dad, fair, and I had built a life together after the divorce. Mom left. He rebuilt himself with salads, early runs, and a gym schedule that turned into a lifestyle. I fell into it too. We became the two who people noticed when we walked in, fit, loud, a weird sort of proud confidence that comes after hard work. It felt like our armor. Then Anna came along, and suddenly that armor felt both protective and brittle. At first, it was easy. They were happy, and when someone in a house is happy, it lifts the whole place. Anna started staying over more. Mornings changed. The 3 of us would bump into each other in the kitchen, share sad-looking scrambled eggs, talk about our jobs. She didn't feel like a stranger. She felt like a person who fit into how our mornings moved. We became casual friends, shared playlists, small jokes about deadlines, someone to complain to about the boss. For weeks it felt like a fresh start for all of us. But small things started to shift, and I didn't really notice them at first. Dad's suspicious looks were easy to laugh off, leftovers from the divorce, I told myself. He used to joke about not being good with trust after what happened with Mom. I let it stay a joke. Jokes have edges though, and sometimes they cut deeper than expected. A few months in, Dad started arranging the mornings so Anna and I weren't alone together. He'd cut off conversations that felt like they were getting too comfortable. He canceled small plans that had nothing to do with us, but suddenly made the house feel smaller. He began asking me odd, leading questions about who Anna texted, whether she followed certain people online, if I had ever noticed her looking at me in a certain way. Each question landed differently. Sometimes he sounded hurt. Sometimes he sounded accusatory. Mostly he sounded afraid. I want to be clear, I never flirted with Anna. I never tried to get close to her in any way that wasn't plainly friendly. I value my relationship with my dad, maybe more than either of us admit, and I would never do anything to sabotage him. Still, his behavior made the home feel like a place under surveillance. The warmth of casual mornings vanished. We stopped planning weekends together. Small rituals we once took for granted disappeared because he started building fences where there used to be openness. What hurts most is the trust part. My dad and I have been through so much. After the divorce, we built a partnership, not romantic, but a real team. We had Saturday runs, failed burger experiments, an inside humor that made us feel like we could handle anything. To watch him flip from being my biggest ally to someone who watched my every move felt like a betrayal. Except it wasn't betrayal. It was fear. Fear does weird things. It turns harmless smiles into threats and friendly conversations into proof of a conspiracy. I tried to call him out once casually. "Do you think I'm trying to push you away?" I asked. He laughed it off. "No, man. I just don't want you getting hurt," he said. But the conversation wasn't really about me. It was about his own fear of being hurt again. He refuses to see a therapist. He thinks sweat and work will fix everything. That approach worked in many ways. It turned him into someone who looked healthy and disciplined. But emotions aren't dumbbells. You can't just lift them away. Anna, meanwhile, has been nothing but kind. She comes in, tidy and calm, and jokes with us about dumb work things. She tries to make breakfast when she can. She laughs at my bad jokes in a way that makes me feel like maybe our old household humor could survive. The idea that she might be scheming? It's absurd. But when someone distrusts, they color everything in that tint. A smile becomes a signal. A joke becomes a test. There have been moments that made me doubt myself, though. Once she stayed late to finish a project and came into the kitchen while I was making coffee. She smiled at me, nothing more. In another house, it might have been a small, forgettable moment. In ours, it became a memory he used to justify distance for days. I began to wonder if exhaustion was making me misread things. Am I seeing flirtation because I'm tired of attention? Or am I missing something obvious? Those thoughts drove me crazy. The cycles are exhausting. He'll get distant for a day or two, then snap back to normal like nothing happened. Those swings taught me to move carefully. I stopped assuming I could be casual in shared spaces. I found myself gauging every casual interaction, afraid it would be framed later. The house stopped being homey. It became performative. I tried being direct more than once. I told him he was making the house tense, that his suspicion was pushing people away. He'd nod without changing anything. I asked if he would prefer me to move out to make things easier. He looked hurt and said, "No. This is my home too. I won't give that up." He's not wrong. It is both our home. But it stung that I had to even consider leaving my own space to make his fears more comfortable. There were nights I lay awake trying to be fair. After what happened with Mom, I get why he fears being betrayed. Infidelity leaves smarter and uglier questions in your head than you expect. But understanding someone's fear doesn't mean you accept being treated like the cause of it. There's a difference between protecting someone and policing them. Small patterns started to pile up. He checked his phone after I'd used it. He asked who I'd had coffee with in a way that implied a ledger of people I shouldn't see. He scheduled his workouts to be home at times that left no chance for Anna and me to be alone. Maybe he thought he was being subtle. Maybe he knew exactly how obvious it looked. Either way, the choices added up. I played a few small experiments instead of making radical moves. I made sure my interactions with Anna were friendly but unmistakably platonic. I invited her to hang out with the explicit purpose of being casual and visible. I avoided being passive-aggressive. I even suggested we all go out once to normalize things. Those moves reduced the immediate tension for a day or two, but they didn't change the underlying belief he carried. I talked to Anna honestly. "If anything I do makes things worse between you two, tell me," I said. She smiled and shrugged and said, "You're fine. Your dad's the one who's got the story." I believed her. She seemed sincere. But when I told her I might confront my dad, she warned me gently, "Be careful. He's been through a lot." Her hesitation told me that she understood the stakes better than I'd admitted to myself. One morning, I caught him in the backyard, sitting with his head in his hands. For a second, he looked like the tired man who tried to hold things together, not the jealous observer. I wanted to go out and hug him and say, "Dad, you can say you're scared." But pride and patterns kept us silent. Maybe that was a mischance. Maybe it will come back as a chance later. I don't like leaving things unsaid, but I also know how fragile these conversations can be. I keep thinking about generational stuff too. Men of his generation were taught to box up feelings and call it strength. It's easier to set a training plan than to sit with shame. So they overcorrect with action. Run more, lift more, work more, because admitting vulnerability feels impossible. But what happens when those routines become shields that isolate you from reality? What if that shield changes you into someone who controls everything out of fear? There are many questions I'm turning over. How do you rebuild trust with someone who expects betrayal? Can you be the person who proves them wrong without erasing your own life? Is it selfish to want my home back the way it was, even if that means forcing a messy conversation? If I push, will I push him away for good? Last week, I decided not to manipulate the situation with silence or drama. I won't withdraw as a test, and I won't weaponize ice-cold behavior to force a reaction. I'm planning a conversation that names the hurt without accusing. I want to point to behaviors and ask for a real shift, not demand some magical instant solution. But the truth is I'm scared one talk won't fix years of habit. Words alone might not change patterns that have been practiced for a long time. I keep replaying a small, perfect morning to remind myself what's possible. Dad burned the eggs, Anna tried and failed at flipping a pancake, we all laughed. For a second it felt like the old days, when our biggest problem was which playlist to use for a run. Those memories are what I hold onto, because they remind me we can be more than our worst moments. They also make the gap feel sharper. So for now, I'm doing the thing I don't like. I'm waiting and watching, trying to choose the least destructive path. I'm keeping a record of small patterns in my head. I'm being kind to Anna without making it a performance. I'm trying not to explode at my dad when he shuts the living room door like it will keep out fear. I don't have a clean plan. I want to be fair to my dad, he's my family. But fairness shouldn't mean letting someone accuse me without challenge. I want to give Anna the benefit of the doubt, because there's no reason not to. I want my home back. 3 people, careless breakfasts, easy weekend plans, no undercurrent of suspicion when someone smiles. Tomorrow I'll try again, even if afraid. A few months ago, my dad started dating Anna, and the 3 of us had settled into a fragile routine. Dad's past with Mom left him jumpy. He began policing our interactions. I tried to be patient, kept things plainly platonic with Anna, and planned a calm conversation with my dad. Nothing was resolved. I never thought I'd let a look ruin mornings, but that's exactly what happened. At first it was tiny, a glance, a pause, and I chalked it up to me being paranoid or to his hurt. Then the glances piled up. Anna would look at me in the living room while scrolling through something on her phone, and it felt like the air shifted. Once, she laughed at a dumb joke I made about a meeting, and it lasted a bit too long. Those moments are small on their own, but in a house under suspicion, they turn into evidence. The day it became obvious to me was weirdly ordinary. We were all exhausted from work. Anna came home late with a takeout bag and a tired smile. I was fixing a sandwich in the kitchen. She leaned against the counter and, without meaning to, watched me as if she'd forgotten the world for a second. I thought nothing of it while it happened, but later that evening my dad asked me where I'd been all day, like he already suspected something. The look on his face when I said just work made me realize he'd been watching more than I knew. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the day, looking for evidence that I had misread things. Maybe she was just being kind. Maybe I had been too distracted to notice the normal, friendly way she looks at people she likes to be around. But small, repeated moments add up into a shape, and the shape suggested she looked at me differently. The problem wasn't what she did, it was what my dad believed she did. A few days later, I decided it was better to get the discomfort out of my chest than to let it curdle. I found her alone in the living room, scrolling through music playlists. I remember being careful with my voice. "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" I asked. She looked up and the expression on her face was open, like more curious than guarded. I told her what I'd noticed, and how it made me feel, not accusing her, not trying to create drama. "Anna, I'm not asking you to hide anything. I just want to know if there's anything I'm missing here. My dad's been on edge, and I don't want this to become something bigger." I watched her process it. She paused, then laughed, a short, surprised sound. "Are you serious?" she said. "I like you as a friend. That's it. I would never do anything to hurt him." There was a heat in her voice, like indignation and hurt at the same time. She stood up, walked to the hallway, and for a second I thought she was going to step around me to make a joke, but instead she stopped and looked at me sharply. "Do you know how insulting that is?" she asked. I tried to explain that I wasn't accusing, that I was trying to defuse things before they got worse. She shook her head. "It doesn't feel like defusing. It feels like you're policing me, because he's insecure. Why should I have to prove myself to you?" Her words cut through the careful tone I had been trying to set. It wasn't that she was dramatic. She was tired of being treated like a suspect. I hadn't thought about how it looked from her side. From her point of view, 3 people living in a home were being rearranged, so one man could feel safe. She had come into a functioning routine, and suddenly found herself the center of a mystery she never asked to be part of. I tried to tell her that I wasn't the source of my dad's fear, that I was on her side. She didn't want to hear it. She grabbed her keys and bag and left the apartment without another word. The door clicked behind her like a puncture to the day. For the first time since she'd been here, the house felt unfinished. For a few days, she stayed away. My dad's reaction shifted in a way that surprised me. He didn't celebrate. Instead, he accused me. "You pushed her away," he said one night, voice low and sharp. "You were always trying to get close to her. That's what this was about." I stared at him like I'd been struck. "Are you kidding me?" I said. She left because we had a conversation where she felt insulted. "You didn't see that." He looked at me like I was the one with the plan, like I had orchestrated the whole thing. That accusation landed with the force of a betrayal I didn't deserve. I had wanted to be honest and simple, to avoid the kind of secretive scheming that destroys people. Instead, my attempt became proof. Over the next few days, I called Anna. I messaged her, trying to explain what I'd hoped to accomplish, asking if we could meet somewhere public to talk. She answered coldly at first, and then agreed to meet, but only for a brief coffee, she said. When we sat across from each other in the cafe, she looked fragile. Her eyes were rimmed with tiredness, like someone who'd been on the defensive and needed to breathe. "I don't want to be the person who causes fights between you and your dad," she said. "I love him. I'm not interested in you." She looked me in the face when she said it. I believed her. There was a steadiness in her voice that matched the earnestness I'd seen before. The same person who tried to fit into our mornings, who burned a pancake and laughed. But she was also clearly hurt and angry at being treated like property. We spoke for an hour. I told her I had tried to be direct because I feared things would get worse. She asked why I hadn't just told my dad to handle his own doubts. "Because he's my dad," I said, "and because I didn't want to force him into more shame." She nodded like she understood, but didn't agree. When I walked back to the apartment later that day, I felt both lighter and heavier. It's weird how that works. I had gotten clarity, and that clarity felt honest. But it also opened a new problem. My dad now blamed me more openly, and Anna was away. The house had grown quieter by her absence, but louder in the accusations that followed. He asked me not to contact her again. I didn't know if I could keep that promise, or if I should. I thought I'd fixed a problem, but instead I had cracked something else. I had wanted peace. I had opened a space where blame could spread. I keep replaying the moment she left, not because I think anything more happened, but because I keep wondering whether I handled it the right way. Was there some better phrasing that would have kept her from leaving? Did I make it worse by assuming I could mediate without getting permission? For now, Anna's absence is a hole. Dad won't talk about seeing her again, and I won't stop thinking about the look she gave me as she left, equal parts hurt and defiance. I'm torn between wanting to respect my father's fragility and wanting to admit that his reaction pushed someone I care about out the door. After months of tension, Anna left after a conversation where she felt policed. My dad blamed me for pushing her away. I called Anna, and after a wary back and forth we met for coffee. She insisted she loved my dad and had no interest in me. I left that meeting relieved but heavier. Anna was gone from the apartment, and my dad's accusations had gotten louder. The day I decided I couldn't wait anymore, I felt like someone pushing open a locked door. My head said let it go, but my chest wouldn't. I needed to know she was okay, and I needed her to hear me say I was sorry for how I made her feel. I didn't know if it would fix anything between her and my dad, but leaving things to simmer felt worse than the risk of being seen together. I found her on a Saturday morning at the small cafe 3 blocks from our building, the place where people who have things to hide sometimes sit in plain sight. She was alone at a corner table with a black coffee and a notebook. When she saw me, she didn't get up right away. She closed the notebook slowly, like she was keeping herself from making a sudden move. Up close she looked tired, but real. That steadiness convinced me she wasn't playing games. We kept it short at first. "Thanks for coming," she said. "I wasn't sure I could do this." I sat down. "I shouldn't have put you on the defensive," I said. "I wanted to understand how you felt. I owe you an apology." She nodded and took a breath, then told me what she'd been thinking during those crawling days, about being treated like a suspect, about losing the illusion of a normal morning. "I came here because I love him," she said plainly. "Not because I was trying to make you jealous or anything." She explained how confusing it had been to be the new person in a home that already had rituals. "One minute we're making eggs together," she said, "and the next I'm the evidence. It's lonely to be considered the problem." She kept returning to that loneliness. I told her I understood, and I meant it. I said I would do whatever I could to make things right, including talking to my dad again. She looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, her expression softened. Okay, she said. But if we do this, we have to be honest. No staged moments. We planned to meet with my dad together. I wanted transparency, to show there was nothing to hide. We thought a calm, honest conversation with both of us present would be the fastest way to reset the narrative. She agreed because she cared about him, and I agreed because I cared about both of them. It felt like a fragile, sensible truce. What I didn't expect was how quickly that plan would implode. We chose a late afternoon cafe because it was neutral territory, and selfishly, because I wanted a place with witnesses. We sat for almost half an hour, rehearsing what we'd say like two people trying not to trip over truth. We didn't need a script. Anna's voice was steady. I love him, she said again. I'm not here to complicate things. We left the cafe side by side and walked the 2 blocks toward our building. I wanted to be seen, not in a dramatic way, but as a simple fact. We were not hiding. We were trying to be honest in public. I thought showing that would help. Halfway down the street, a car slowed by the curb and then pulled over. My heart sank before I recognized the man sitting in the driver's seat. My dad. He'd been driving by and stopped when he saw us together. He got out without knocking. His face was immediate and angry in a way that made the air thin. He walked up fast, his jaw tight. "What the hell is this?" he said. There was real hurt under the anger, but that didn't make his words less sharp. "Explain yourself," he told Anna first, like she owed him an explanation. Then he turned to me, eyes burning. "And you planned this. You plotted to humiliate me." I tried to step forward, to speak calmly, but his face had already closed like a door. Anna's hand found mine and squeezed, a quick, subtle anchor. "We were just walking back from coffee," I said. "We went to talk because I wanted to fix things." My dad didn't pause to listen. His voice rose. "Don't lie to me. I saw you whispering. I saw you smiling at each other the way you used to smile. This is a setup." People nearby started to notice, and the neutral street had shifted into something public and small. I felt exposed in a way I'd never wanted to be. My attempt at transparency had turned into the image my dad needed to justify his suspicion. The two of us together, laughing and intact. In his eyes that wasn't innocent, it was conspiracy. Anna's face flickered between anger and hurt. "You can't just decide to accuse people on the street," she said, voice controlled but hard. "We were talking. We were trying to be honest." My dad's reply was a mix of accusation and panic. "I can't trust what I don't see. I won't be made a fool of again." At that moment I thought of all the small choices that led here, the old pain in him, the way I tried to be careful but not invisible, the way I wanted to repair instead of isolate. None of those things had a clean path forward in the face of a man who'd convinced himself of a story. I grabbed my dad's sleeve, not to stop him from walking away, but because I wanted to be heard. "Dad, this isn't a setup. Please, just listen." He pulled away like I'd burned him. He didn't walk off immediately. Instead, he stood there furious and trembling with something that looked like grief. "Get out of my sight," he snapped at Anna. "I don't want to see you here, ever." Her face went white. She looked at me quickly, then turned and walked away without another word. That walk felt like a slow crash sound. He didn't accuse me with words after that so much as with distance. He crossed his arms and refused to move. People around us left, eyes down, uncomfortable at the scene. I could feel the embarrassment and anger like a physical weight. I had hoped the plan would help. Instead, it cemented his belief that I was a threat. We went back to the apartment in silence. I tried to ask him why he had to react like that in public, why he couldn't give us a chance to explain. He said nothing for a long time, and when he finally spoke it was a small, exhausted defeat. "You don't get it," he said. "I can't lose her." That phrase, "I can't lose her," made something else click for me. It wasn't just jealousy. It was fear that if he let go, he'd lose the last thing that made him feel seen since the divorce. I don't know whether my dad will change his mind, or whether he'll find a way to nurse his fear privately until it rots something else. All I know is that our attempt at clarity blew up in our faces, and now Anna is further away than before. After the coffee meeting where my dad saw Anna and me together, he exploded in public and Anna left. I chased honesty. We met again to explain, but his fear hardened and she walked away. Things escalated. He accused me, she felt policed, and the apartment turned into a quiet battlefield. I couldn't stand watching both of them drift apart, so I tried to be the one to reach out. That attempt seemed to make everything worse, and then he disappeared for a few days. I didn't know whether he'd come back. When he vanished, it felt like the house swallowed a sound. No calls, no messages at first. For 2 days, I told myself he was maybe staying with a friend, cooling off. On the third day, a WhatsApp ping with a short voice message from his number changed everything. He didn't call. He left a message that sounded small and ashamed. I needed to get away for a minute. I'm sorry. It wasn't a full explanation, but it was better than silence. Anna and I texted after that. We agreed, without making a drama of it, to give him space. She sent a short note to say she was giving him time, and that she hoped he'd come back safe. I wanted to pressure him into talking, but pressing seemed like another way to prove his fears right. So we waited, which felt stupid and responsible at the same time. 5 days later, he walked back into the apartment like someone stepping into a room he didn't recognize. His face looked raw. He didn't have an answer ready. He sat at the table, and for a long minute none of us spoke. Then he said quietly, "I saw you too, and I left because I couldn't handle it." The sentence was half confession, half apology. We organized a meeting that evening, the 3 of us in the living room, with no witnesses and no script. I remember looking at both of them and thinking about all the small mornings we had lost. I started by telling the truth, how I tried to be honest, how I had never wanted to hurt him, and how much it injured me to be accused. Anna spoke next. She told him she loved him, that she had never had any interest in me beyond friendship, and that being treated like a suspect had been painful. Her voice was steady. It carried the weight of being pushed out and the relief of speaking plainly. My dad listened in a way he hadn't before. He admitted that the divorce left him fragile, that he had built routines to feel whole, and that when something new entered his life, he saw it through the lens of that old wound. He said he realized he had been punishing us for his own fear of being abandoned. Then, the part one didn't expect. He apologized, not a quick sorry to move on, but a slow, specific apology. He said he was wrong to accuse me, wrong to put Anna in that position, and wrong to let his fear make decisions for him. We made a plan that night. He agreed to see someone not because we demanded it, but because he said he wanted help cracking the pattern that kept sabotaging him. Anna agreed to set clearer boundaries about how she and I interacted in the house, and I agreed to be more transparent about plans so nothing felt staged. We also promised small rituals to rebuild normalcy. Shared breakfast twice a week, one weekend activity a month with no tension, and honest check-ins without accusations. It wasn't magic. Trust didn't reappear overnight. But something shifted. He stopped assuming the worst, and the small gestures of routine began to feel like glue. Anna moved back in after a respectful pause and a few honest conversations. My dad kept his appointment with a counselor and later told me it helped him see how projection had colored everything. Looking back, I learned a few things I didn't expect to learn so quickly. Fear can look a lot like control. Honesty can hurt first and heal later. And being family doesn't give anyone the right to police another's life. We now talk more awkwardly at first, then more easily about what scares us. The house feels like home again, but it's quieter in a better way. Fewer assumptions, more asking. I can't promise this won't ever happen again. People carry old hurts. But we have a plan and, more importantly, a commitment to try. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Thanks for your attention.